Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's good to see you all again. And my name is Daniel Jesse, and you're watching Daniel Jesse Life. And it's good to have you all back here today. It's good to see you. What we are talking about today is the 111-year anniversary of the signing of the Federal Reserve Act. And so we're going to get into a little bit of history of the Federal Reserve Act and how it came to be. So I have a few notes written here. So we have November 20th, 1910. There was a group of 6 very powerful individuals that all boarded separate train cars using assumed names, and they all headed towards Jekyll Island, Georgia. They all landed in Jekyll Island, Georgia, and we have the 6 people who landed in Jekyll Island, Georgia. Their names are Nelson W. Aldrich, Abraham P. Andrew, Frank A. Vanderlip, Henry P. Davison, Benjamin Strong, and Paul M. Warburg. They're the 6 individuals, very powerful at the time. Back in November 20th of 1910, they met for a 10-day meeting in Jekyll Island, Georgia. And at this meeting, they discussed a way to be able to create a central bank for the United States of America. And throughout America's history, central banking has been attempted before, but it all failed. There was never actually a successful attempt at central banking. Thomas Jefferson, I believe it was adamantly opposed to central banking. And rightfully so, because central banking has a lot of problems. So anyway, these 6 individuals here, they arrive in Jekyll Island, Georgia for this 10-day meeting, all under assumed names, total secrecy. Nobody knew about this meeting except for them. And for 10 days, they planned what it's going to take to create a central bank in America, and the logistics of how they're going to do it. So that's what happened. It took them 3 years to get this central bank idea pitched to Congress. They tried public relations campaigns. They tried all sorts of ideas to try to get the American public on board, to try to get Congress on board. And over and over again, the public rejected the plan, and members of Congress rejected the plan. That they had a 3-year battle of trying to get this plan passed. So finally, right before the Congress broke for the Christmas vacation, December 23rd, 1913, they finally slid that bill through. The Federal Reserve Act, they got the Federal Reserve Act passed. They got it signed, sealed, and delivered. And from that point forward, America now had a central bank called the Federal Reserve. And keep in mind that the Federal Reserve operates outside of the limits of the United States government. Granted, the United States president gets to select the Fed president, but that's merely just kind of more of a formality than anything that has any teeth to it. So the president gets to select the Fed president, but that's about it. But the Federal Reserve operates outside of the boundaries of the United States government. It is not able to be audited, has never been audited, not in its 111-year history has it ever been audited. And it's the one that has control of the nation's money supply, the interest rates, so many things that it has control over. And a very famous quote, many of you have probably heard this quote before. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, who died in 1812, this quote could be apocryphal. I'm not quite sure if it is or not, but the famous quote many of you have probably heard reads, "Give me control over a nation's currency, and I care not who makes its laws." All right, so that's a very telling statement in that, the Rothschild banking dynasty family, we're all familiar with them. They know how the game is played. They know how the game works. They know how all of this thing works. They know how all the setup is. And they know that if they have control over the money, they couldn't care less who is sitting in leadership in that country or the government or anything like that. They couldn't care less about who is sitting in leadership because they know they control the money, therefore they control everything. So that's basically kind of an underlying quote to keep in mind as to the power of the Federal Reserve Bank. The Federal Reserve Bank is basically the entity that runs the United States government, whether you like it or not. It really is. Even it says printed on the American currency, it says Federal Reserve Note. And, Federal Reserve owns all of these pieces of paper that say that they are the American monetary system, Federal Reserve Note. And if you consider the word note, note is a unit of debt. And so debt means it has to be paid back plus an interest attached to it. So paid back with interest on every American U.S. note. And so all that money you may or may not have in your pocket, it's all Federal Reserve notes. You don't own it. The Federal Reserve owns it, and it wants its interest payment back on it. So we're forever indebted to the Federal Reserve as long as we have this currency. And so if you think about the system when they set up in 1913, the US dollar spending power was at 100%. So over from 1913 currently down to 2024, where we're at today, the US dollar has steadily lost purchasing power and lost value steadily over the 111 years. And so I think I saw a report somewhere that says currently as we sit today, we have 3 cents left of spending power per US dollar compared to what it used to be in 1913 spending power. So 3 cents remaining. We're sitting on zero value. I mean, we are looking at the death, the end of the US dollar. We're front row seat to history where this all collapses, and it's going to collapse in a very huge fashion. So, we're currently sitting at $36 trillion in debt that's actually on the books. If you actually consider all the debt in aggregate, all the American debt in aggregate, we're looking at quadrillions of dollars in debt in the aggregate. But if you look at the usdebtclock.org website, today we're over $36 trillion in debt, and we're spending $1 trillion every 100 days. And it's a system designed to fail from the outset. If you look at the most basic equation, if the Federal Reserve was to print just a single US dollar and distribute that one single US dollar, and then it was paid back to the Federal Reserve, we still owe interest on that US dollar paid back to the Federal Reserve. But if you paid that one single printed dollar back to the Federal Reserve, where does the interest come from? You have to pay the interest. The interest doesn't exist because where is it going to come from? So we have to print another dollar to be able to pay the interest on that dollar we just paid. The system was designed to fail from the outset. It was not meant to succeed. It was basically a long con, I guess if you want to call it that, a long con on the American public, on the world, because the US dollar is the world's reserve currency now. So this con has been perpetrated upon not only the Americans, but also on all the global people who rely on the US dollar. Because ultimately, the system is designed to fail. It has no other choice but to fail, because we'll never, ever, ever pay back the $36+ trillion in debt that's on the books. So, where are we at now? Right now, we're basically at a turning point in world history, American history, where we're getting a new leadership soon. Things are in total flux. We're in what's considered an everything bubble. Like everything is literally in a bubble. We have, debt at all-time record highs. We have a debt bubble. We have a housing bubble again, another gigantic housing bubble. We have a student loan bubble where there's, over $1.7 trillion in student loans owing on degrees that are essentially worthless because nobody can get jobs in their field of study. So a student loan debt, we have, consumer debt has never been higher. Everything is in a bubble right now. It's considered the everything bubble, and it's about to blow. We are just sitting, a moment away from this whole thing collapsing. So what do you do? What do you do about it? What solutions do we have? I don't know. I don't know what the solutions are. The only solution I know is to prepare yourself for the inevitable collapse, to prepare yourself, mentally prepare yourself, physically prepare yourself, becoming in the best shape you could possibly be in, because you're about to experience shortages of everything when this whole thing collapses. You need to be mentally and physically prepared for when it all does collapse. You don't want to be caught off guard being that person who says, why didn't we see this coming? How come we never saw this coming? And now we're sitting in the middle of it. But I'm telling you, we've had 111 years of warning that it is coming, and the warning has been just getting louder and louder every year. If you consider the 2008 financial collapse moment, where we had the housing collapse and the Lehman Brothers collapse and the Bear Stearns collapse, and all these things collapsed and froze everything up in the American and world economies. What that moment was the game over moment, the party is over moment. That's when, the records scratch. It's over as of 2008. That was the warning shot. But what happened from 2008 until today was nothing but a gigantic Band-Aid put on this enormous problem that did not get better, nor was anybody ever held accountable for creating this problem. All it did was we put this gigantic Band-Aid on the problem, printed trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars more, to create this Band-Aid to make it seem like everything was okay, when in fact everything was not okay. Everything was awful. But it seemed as though everything was okay. But no, we were just getting in more and more and more and more debt. And so now here we are at $36+ trillion and growing. There's no end in sight, and it's a mathematical certainty that this will end in a very, very bad way, and probably pretty soon. So the only thing we can do is prepare ourselves, have some kind of a financial reserve available to you, because you might not be able to have access to your bank accounts, but you need to have financial reserves available to you in the short term to deal with short-term money scenarios. So the only thing you could do, the only solution I have to this gigantic problem is to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself, your family, anybody you love and care about. Make sure you guys are able and prepared to be on your own for a while, because there's nobody coming to save us. No one's coming to rescue us. There is no rescue ship. There's no rescue boat. There's no plan B. We're on our own on this one. We are it. All we got is ourselves and our own self-reliance. So, not to be doomy and gloomy, but, looking at the writing that's clearly on the wall, the only thing we have is ourselves, and that's it, the people we love. So you need to prepare yourself. Be ready for anything, and keep your head on a swivel. Be very aware of your area, of your circumstances, your surroundings, and hope for the best, pray for the best, but act as though everything depends on you, because it really does. Anyway, didn't mean to leave you guys on a downer. I'm sorry, but it is kind of a rough subject. But today being the 111-year anniversary of the Federal Reserve being signed into law, which changed world history forever, and American history, world history, forever changed. If you like this information, if you like this content, if you found it useful at all, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get back to 1,000 subscribers on this channel as soon as possible. So hit that subscribe button, comment below what your thoughts about the Federal Reserve and the current financial situation we're existing in. Let me know what you guys think. And until then, see you guys in the next video.